Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. Maybe some people will join a bit later, but we will start already since we are a little bit late. So, yeah, as we were mentioning, Malt Academy started as a Corona kind of initiative, and yeah, despite Corona is slowing down, or it seems like it, we want to give. We want to keep giving these workshops. So the one that I'm giving today, it's about building a social media strategy to overachieve your business goals. First of all, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So I've been working for the past 10 years in different business, in different startups, and in different corporates as well, building marketing strategies for all of them. So I started off at Kraft Foods. Maybe some of you don't know it, but it's a company behind brands like Oreo, Chips Ahoy, Lou, for instance. And there I was doing brand marketing. Then I decided to jump into the digital world, and I started working for Rocket Internet, where I worked 2.5 years, also in the marketing team, building Jumia, which is the largest e-commerce platform in Africa. And I was there first in Germany, building the setup, and then I moved to Nigeria for a year to do marketing from ground. Then I joined Delivery, and I co-founded the company with 2 other co-founders. It's a groceries delivery company that is based in Barcelona, and I was the CMO of the company. So we really started from scratch there. Then I see a lot of French names here, so I'm pretty sure most of you know Blablacar. So I was leading marketing for Spain and Portugal for a year as well. And now in the last 3 years, I've been at GoFundMe, expanding the giving layer of the internet worldwide. And also on the side, I'm consulting different businesses when it comes to digital strategy and growth goals that they might set up. So I wanted to take you very quickly through the plan for today. So first of all, I'm going to go very quickly into understanding and building a social media plan. Maybe some of you already know it, and let me know if there are some things that sound repetitive, but I want to recap what are the steps to build this social media plan. Then we jump into how to think about that plan in a strategic way, how to choose the right channels, how to choose the right audience, and what are the key steps to follow. And the third objective of the session is to learn from each other. So please ask questions in the chat. I don't mind being interrupted, and I like to have some dynamic conversation, so I don't talk on my own for 1 hour. So yeah, on the first part, we are going to see how to analyze the current status of our social media plan, then how to set up smart objectives, understanding the audience, and defining and testing messages and formats. And then we jump into the strategic side, which is action plan and analysis and optimization. So these are 6 steps. It's not rocket science, but it's the framework that has worked for me in the last years. We have something in the chat. Hello. So just before we dive into the heavier topics, I want to give a quick intro to social media. So right now we see social media quite overloaded. It's what it was in the 60s, 70s when it came to out-of-door advertising, all these neon lights. When you go to Manhattan, you see that there's a lot of advertisers there. And you can definitely get overloaded, right? With all this information, with all these colors, everybody tries to stand out on top of each other. And right now, social media feels the same, right? We go into social media and we see that everybody's trying to stand out. Everybody's investing a lot of money. Everybody's really trying to make the most of the channel and to grab the attention of the audience. There's a number actually behind all this overload of ads. And nowadays we are seeing an average of 5,000 ads a day. And it's not getting any better. It's actually growing exponentially. This is a number that the CEO of Hotsuit gave a year ago. So probably now we are at 6,000 even. And this number, if you compare it with the last 30 years, 30, 40 years trend, you can see how much it has increased, right? In the 70s was around 500 per day. And now it's 5,000 per day, which is truly a lot of ads, right? So how do we make our brand and our business be one of the top of mind and stand out when it comes to advertisement if you have like 4,999 other ads that people see in a day, right? That's what I'm trying to go through. And one of the main things that we need to take into account when we advertise, it's what people are having in mind in that moment. So people are not having in mind usually your product. People are not having in mind usually your service. They have a whole ecosystem and a whole environment around them that like makes them worried about like other topics or makes them be interested in other topics, right? So we need to take those into account to really like grab the attention and be relevant for them. Last year, there was a publication that put these dots as the main ones for 2020. Now we could like change it a little bit, taking into account what has happened in the last months. So for instance, like health, digital health became very like even more relevant this year, but Corona will be a big one, right? Like when it comes to economy, like the recession that we are living, it's also something that people have as top of mind. So there were like different dots that this agency identified as the relevant ones that people will look for and will care about in 2020. So one of them was economy. Now we know for sure that there's a recession. Now we know that it's going to be bigger than expected, but it was already something that people were saying last year, that there was going to be a recession in 2020. So we need to take into account, for instance, this dot when we advertise to people, right? Like we are talking about money, we are talking about like pricing, we are talking about sales, we're talking about maybe a discount, but we need to take into account what that person has in mind about when it comes to pricing, right? Like probably what they care about is finding something that is adjusted to the current situation, which is quite price sensitive and quite adjusted to a budget given the current situation. Then another thing, another topic, another category that people were going to be interested in, and we saw raising a lot in the last years, is digital health. Now more than ever, we have digital solutions for everything. Digital health has been one of the fastest growing ones, and it won't stop. And now, like, we need to take into account that that's a space that we can tackle into, and it's easier for us to enter because people are already interested, right? We see the search volume going up. We see that there's a higher interest in people not going to the doctor, but having digital assistants. So that's another one. Then privacy, it's a big topic as well. We have seen Facebook getting backlashed a lot in the last months, in the last years, because of the privacy policy. So it's something that people also care about, and we need to communicate a lever on this dot if we want to advertise. Then everybody wants a human touch, of course. Human touch is, despite we are going digital, people really want to know that there's someone behind that they can call, that will assist if they have any problems. They want to have more, not only a transactional interaction with the platform, but they want a more conversational human one. So we need to take that into account as well. Then travel. Travel has been one of the ones that hasn't moved that fast in the last years. There hasn't been that much innovation, but we see some alternatives coming up, like Tier, like all these mobility solutions that are popping out, and we need to take that into account as well. Nostalgia is a feeling, right? It's not a category, but we have seen through Spotify, for instance, that all the nostalgic playlists are the ones that are played the most. So when we talk about a certain ad, a certain product appealing to this feeling, might help us also to connect with the audience. Then retail, there are a lot of like new solutions on retail, and if you're working in the retail industry, it might be worth exploring them, right? Like people want more real experiences where they can even like try the products on online before buying them. On the move commerce, the connection between offline and online now it's way stronger, and we need to take that into account as well. And social gaming is always a category that drives one of the strongest innovations ever, and we need to keep an eye on it because people are also interested on that category, right? So what is my audience doing, right? Like we need to understand why is social media relevant and why we keep talking about social media as a channel that we want to use. So there was a study there was a study from Global Web Index that like was put in that center. Well, sorry, I have a question. Where does the selection come from? Did you have a survey? Yeah, so that's from Global Web Index. Last year, they did this survey, and this chart is also from that study. You can find that this was mainly the index that they were like put in the different categories on. So you can find it online. There's like a whole chapter per point, and it's very well explained when it comes to like what retail means, what digital health means, what human touch means. I don't want to get much more into detail. I just introduce you this slide, and for me, it's more about like taking into account the context. And this was one of the pictures that I found more relevant for putting all these dots together. So that's why I put it. You can go a bit deeper on Global Web Index survey from 2019, and you will see all these dots much more explained. Then they also wanted to see why social media is relevant and why people actually want to use it for a business purpose. So they sent this survey, and they analyze what people do when it comes to their free time, right? Like, where are they spending their free time, and how we can actually become relevant in those moments. So there was 69% of people listening to music on the free time, 54% replied that they look around in the surroundings, 41% message friends, family. Of course, there's an overlap, right? Like listening to music, 69%, but people like also look at the surroundings. They also browse social media a lot, listen to podcasts, read. And there's a 10% that actually purchase products online on the free time. That's how they allocate the free time, right? 10% of their free time goes into purchase products online. And that's an indication that like we need to be present in all the previous steps to actually become relevant on this last one, but it only takes 10%, right? We need to be present when they are spending 54% of the time looking at the surroundings, when they are messaging people, where they're browsing to social media. We need to be present in all the previous touch points to actually influence the last one. When it comes to like the share of online time, we also see that social media is still one of the strongest ones. 33% share their online time on social media. 69% use it for online TV and streaming. 16% music streaming, 13% online press. So we do see that like the share of online time of social media is still very relevant. So that's one of the reasons why we should consider to be there when it comes to advertisement. And one last point, it's also the purchase inspiration, right? Why do we want to be there? It's because people actually look at social media for a reference to inspire themselves and to take the final purchase decision. So 37% of people actually use social networks to use it as purchase inspiration, to know what looks to buy, to know what products to buy, to look for like recommendations, to look for inspiration, right? In general, so 37% use social networks, 34% use individual retailer websites, 32% use price comparison websites, 21 multi-brand websites. You can go on and on. Like 11% use blogs. A lot of times we obsess about blogs a lot, which makes sense SEO-wise, so people can find it. But we need to know at which phase of the funnel, for instance, blogs impact the person, right? When it comes to the consideration, the inspiration phase, we do see that social networks are have a higher impact on the decision of the customer. So now we know that social media is something almost necessary for a business to be relevant, right? We have seen all these numbers. We have seen how much people spend time, people use it for inspiration when it comes to purchasing products and using services. So now we know that we have to be there, but like, what's the role in our marketing strategy, right? Like, most of you must have seen a funnel like this before. So it's mainly top of funnel, mid of funnel, bottom of funnel. We can use social media for almost every step of the funnel, but we need to take into account what's the objective of each part of the funnel, right? A lot of people are advertising on social media and they say, it doesn't convert. It's not it's not making any impact. I cannot measure it very well. So we need to know why we're using it and what's actually the right metric, that right KPI that we need to use for the objective that we are using that channel for, right? So we can use social media for awareness and exposure, right? Like there are some strategies like using viral videos, using display, using influencers, for instance, using reach and frequency ads that I will talk a bit more in detail in the next slides for awareness, exposure, like top of mind. So we need to measure all of these initiatives that are focused on awareness with reach and impressions. It doesn't work if we are doing an awareness strategy and we measure it in conversions. It's not going to convert, right? What we are trying to do is to be top of mind. Where does the selection? Did you have a survey? Would you mind changing that? Yeah, sure. Then the middle of funnel consideration. We can also use social media for the consideration phase, but then we need to use it in a different way, right? Like then we need to talk about our products, we need to talk about our service, we need to create trust around our platform to make sure that people come and we influence that consideration phase. Then we need to measure it in another way, right? It's still not a conversion channel. It's still not a conversion strategy, what we are using social media for, but it's engagement, it's clicks, it's followers. We want to create a high consideration when it comes to our service on social media by owning our own communication and by posting very specific posts and very specific creatives and formats. The last one, it is conversion, and we can do some conversion campaigns on social media. There are very specific ones that we can actually do on social media that are conversion focused, like the lead gen ads are ones that like are very focused on conversion, right? We can get all those like leads and like kind of use them for our own platform. We also have lookalikes campaigns that they usually convert very well. So we have like some conversion strategies that we can use on social media, but it's mainly contextual ads. It's very specific to the audience. On these ones, we need to go like way more in detail and very focus on the action to make sure that people actually convert. We can run all these ads in parallel to make sure that people get to know the brand, so they already have a higher intent in the purchase and a higher intent to consider your brand. So we can work on the awareness side and launch a campaign that is awareness focused. We can work on our own social media channels to work on the consideration, and we can have a conversion campaign running at the same time. It's not excluding one to the other, but we need to make sure when we launch campaigns what's actually the objective that we are trying to achieve with each of them, and in which phase of the funnel we're placing these campaigns, right? In this last phase of the funnel, we know that what we need to take into account is like leads, as I mentioned, is sales, is the repetition rate, and of course, the cost of acquisition compared to how much return we get from those users, which is a lifetime value. So let's dive in. Let's start building a social media plan together. The first step is the current status analysis. So that's when you have a social media account. You want to like first assess what you have, know what you can work with. If you want to like keep on working on what you have or build something different or get to know a bit more the competitors. First of all, you need to define what's your mission, right? And a lot of times I say that there's a little bit of confusion between mission and vision. Vision talks about the future, what's our long-term objective, what's the place where we want to be in 1, 2, 3, 5 years with our social media strategy. And the mission are like the actions that we are going to take to get there in the present, right? So I want to be the leading platform of digital watches in 5 years, and then it comes the mission. It's like, and I'm going to do it by posting every day, and I'm going to take care of my customers, and I don't know, you can come up with your own mission, right? But it's something that is more in the present, and vision it's in the future. Then you can do an internal social media analysis. How many followers do you have? How is the engagement rate? How are you ranking in certain hashtags, right? You can run that analysis. And if you don't have any social media profile, don't worry. You can also run a competitive analysis, which is looking at competitors, looking at people that like you want to look as like a reference when it comes to social media, and build your kind of strategy, also taking into account what they are doing. And then there's the SWOT analysis. So for those who maybe did it in university and don't forget and don't remember what it is, I put a little reminder here, probably you know it, but despite all of this is kind of like a heavy slide kind of work, because at the end, you put all of this together potentially in a slide deck that you talk with your co-founders, or that you talk with your client, or that you present in your company. It's necessary to at least agree in where we are, where we want to get, and how we are going to get there, and also taking into account who are the competitors and how we are going to tackle them. It's an initial lift that it will help you moving forward with your strategy, and it will help you having buy-in at the beginning as well, when it comes to moving forward again with your strategy, right? Like if you agree in those terms, you can continue working on your own and keep working on your strategy and make it smooth and successful. Then you need to define SMART goals. I don't know if you have heard this framework before, but SMART goals are goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So what does it mean specific? You state exactly what you do, and you use action words instead of very generic words. Measurable, it means that you're going to provide a way to evaluate those goals and use metrics or data targets. Achievable, it's something that like you can potentially accomplish, that is within your scope. Relevant makes sense within your job function, improves the business in some way. And then time-bound, it's in a specific time frame, right? Like we don't want to set up goals that don't have a time frame, because then we cannot measure them either. So here you have some examples about SMART goals. So you can see, for instance, what is a simple goal and what is a SMART goal. I hear a lot of my friends, especially now that the summer is coming, saying, well, I want to improve my health, I want to lose weight, I want to eliminate sugary drinks from my diet, I want to change my lifestyle, I want to be at my ideal weight. Those are things that some people care about. How do we translate those goals that might seem very broad and might seem like very hard to achieve into something that like we feel a bit more comfortable and we can actually act on? So let's take, for instance, the first sentence, I want to improve my health. How do we transform that into a SMART goal? We put more specific goals and we put a time frame, right? So I will improve my health by eating 60 grams of protein and drinking 2 liters of water every day. So there you have something to measure. You have a time bound. It's very specific, and you can actually achieve it, right? Like 60 grams of proteins and 2 liters of water per day. It's not out of scope, 100%. Then measurable, I want to lose weight. I will lose 3 kilos by October 31st by increasing my activity level and decreasing my calorie intake. To be honest, I will even improve this one by including what level of activity you want to, by how much you want to increase your activity level. Is it like 20%, 30%? Do you want to train 3, 4, 5 hours per week? Do you want to decrease your calorie intake to 300 calories per week? I will improve this one even more to make it even smarter, let's say. But you can already see the change, right? And we have like examples for each of those ones. So you can see more or less the difference of what it means to set up a SMART goal. Then the third step of creating a social media strategy is understanding your audience. So for understanding the audience, we need to understand not only the demographics, gender, age, education, purchase power, which are like the most common kind of targeting options that people actually use, but we also need to understand the psychographics, right? What are the values of this audience that I want to target? What are the attitudes, the personality, the lifestyle? The geography might be relevant if you're delivering products for a certain area or your service only reaches certain areas. The behavior, right? The intent to purchase the device, the value proposition, the life cycle. The behavior is very important because usually you don't want to show the same landing page, for instance, to someone that has like a high intent that just like gets to know your brand, or you don't want to like redirect them to the same landing page that it's like a direct sales kind of page, but you want to tell them how it works. For instance, those landing pages work very well when you explain your service, right? Especially if it's B2B. Let them like dive into the benefits of your product before you ask them to try it and sign up and buy it, because then they will have a higher intent. So you need to know what's the intent to purchase once you're redirecting them to your site. Then there's the user type, new, recurring, power user, same as I mentioned just now. A new user, a recurring user, a power user, they behave completely differently from each other. So you need to take into account what are the value propositions that you will need to show to these users, and what are the landing pages and the marketing that you need to use with these users. And then depending on the source, you also need to target your audience differently, right? Is your audience on Facebook? Is your audience on Google, Instagram? Is it direct? Is it referral? You need to also understand where are the users going to come from and how you're going to communicate with them, right? One of the examples that I like, and this is in Spanish, I usually teach in a university in Spain. So sorry if you cannot understand everything, but I will explain it as well as I can, so you can actually get what I mean with building a persona. So here we have an example of buyer persona. We have this girl, this woman who's like a millennial, 33 years old. What she has studied advertising and public relations. She earns around like 27,000 euros per year. So those are things that we need to take into account when building like this persona and this audience. What are the social media networks that she's using the most? What are the favorite apps that she uses the most as well? So Spotify, she uses Google as a search engine. She really loves Apple, for instance. So there we know already where to advertise and how to engage with this person, right? She's probably very interested in music. So maybe we need to produce some content around music. We definitely need to be on Google with Google Ads. And maybe something that is a bit more premium, since she likes Apple. We want to advertise our service, our product, into something that is more that is a good value for money, let's say. Then we have all these emojis describing how she is. So she's someone cool, she's someone happy, joyful, that likes to make jokes, kind of, and loving. So we have like a bit of the personality. So we know the tone that we have to use if we want to talk to this person. And then we have some of the interests from her, which are like cultural, life, design, and music, right? So having all of these details, and maybe it seems like very detailed, but it will help us to produce the content that we need to for our social media strategy. I have one question: which of these are more important selling for B2B services? So to be honest, for me, the experience I have with B2B is the psychographic ones, because B2B, it's a lot about building personal relationships. It's more about like getting to know the personality, the values, the lifestyle of the other companies that you're going to talk to, of the salesperson or the CEO that you're going to talk to. It's way more personal when it comes to B2B. So you need to make it even more detailed. I think people sometimes think the opposite, that B2B it's colder, it's just sales. But just because of that, because it's sales, you need to go into a bit more of a personal communication that like makes the other person feel that you understand their needs, that you're going to serve their goals, and you're going to help them to get there. Because a lot of B2B companies, what you're actually doing for the other business is to help them to solve a problem, and the lifetime value of B2B is usually way higher than on B2C. So I think it's worth investing a lot into this personal kind of approach and to really going in detail and understanding the business that you're talking with, because B2B at the end, it's you want a high lifetime value. You want them to really stick to your service. So you really need to like get on a personal level to actually convince them. That's my tip, and that's how I've been working so far. Let me continue very quickly about defining messages and formats. I don't know if you have seen this before. Probably most of you have heard about what storytelling is, but there's a scientific approach to why are we using storytelling? Why are we actually talking about storytelling so much? And why is it so important to use storytelling instead of like selling messages, right? So when someone is telling a story, there's a part of the brain that it's called the neural coupling that allows the listener to turn the story into their own ideas and experience them thanks to this process, the neural coupling one. So someone is telling a story, you're listening to it, and while you're listening to it, you are treating that information as your own idea. Then there's the dopamine that when someone is telling that story and it has an emotional component that is actually relevant for you, you will experience an emotionally charged feeling in your brain, because you feel some emotions attached to this story that you are already integrating as yours, and therefore you have some emotions towards it. Then there's some activity in the cortex that it's the one that processes facts. And when there's a well-told story, there's actually that part of the brain that actually gets activated and can engage with additional areas of the brain. And then the last part, when you have heard a story that you feel attached to it in an emotional level, that you have incorporated as yours, and that you have felt some emotion towards it, and your brain has processed it in a specific way, it comes the mirroring, which is the marketing magic, let's say, that people like will acknowledge all of this story that you have told them, that you have tried to communicate, and they will mirror that story as if it was theirs, right? That's the important part of storytelling. Storytelling, as you can see, it's not an ad like this. It's not an ad with a price. It's not an ad saying travel for less. It's not an ad telling you find a ride, publish a ride. It's not a direct conversion ad. This ad can be forgotten very quickly because it doesn't talk directly to the emotions of the person. There's this famous phrase from Maya Angelou that says, you will forget what you see, you will forget what they have done to you, you will forget what you have touched, you will forget what you have heard, but you can never forget how someone or something has made you feel. And that applies to marketing. Maya Angelou, of course, wasn't talking about marketing, but I like to take that phrase as well for us, because it's true that once you have felt the story, it's something that will stick to you even stronger. So, for instance, at Blablacar, we went from this type of advertisement that was very focused on like conversions, let's say, that's like what people call conversion marketing, to something that was telling a story. We changed our logo, which was this ugly logo that you have here, very basic, very 80s, 90s, let's call it. When I joined the company, that's one of the first things that I raised. I really wanted to change the logo. Of course, it wasn't me who changed it. But we had an amazing branding team that worked on this. We did start the brand research in Spain, though, to make sure that we were going towards a brand that was appealing to people. So I don't know, like usually I ask, what do you guys think that these things are? But I will explain it now because we're a lot of people and maybe it gets a bit messy. So, sorry, can I see again? The quote of mine is my favorite. Yeah, it's good, right? Yeah. So applying this quote from Maya Angelou to Blablacar, what we try to do is to change the logo. So you can see that these are like two seats in a car and can also be the quotes of a conversation. So for us, we were trying to build a story around how a ride with BlaBlaCar from A to B, driven, empowered by a conversation, will take you to your loving ones, right? It's much better than travel for less with BlaBlaCar, right? Here we see, like, and you can see the ads that we built with this new branding strategy. And we were trying to build these emotional moments of like someone going back home in a very affordable way, and therefore they could go back home way more often to see their parents, their relatives, their family, right? It was like the BlaBlaCar quotes that were taking you to your loving ones, right? With this strategy, we could like build this top of mind in a way stronger way, and a way more emotional way than with just save money, 18 pounds that ride. So we try to work a lot on that. Then together with the messages, it also comes the format. I get asked a lot what type of formats should we use, what type of ads should we launch, and by far the ad and the format, sorry, that has worked the best for me is video. We can see some numbers here. 89% of consumers watch video on social networks a few times a week, and 63% watch video at least once a day. In my circle, I think it's closer to 100 of people that watch a video at least once a day. These numbers are getting even stronger, but that was like average population. So I get that these numbers might be a bit lower. And then there was a fun fact that, like, if, for instance, your audience is single people, you're lucky if you're using video, because the likelihood that they watch a video before going to bed is 70% higher. So yeah, if you are targeting single people, if you have a platform like Tinder or Bumble, you can definitely use videos because people are going to watch it on a higher level. I want to talk a bit about why video, because it's true that it might be a bit more expensive. It's true that like it's easy to put a Photoshop ad together and try to make it work. Like producing a video takes a bit more time. But to be honest, the return is way higher, right? Like I was talking about the storytelling before, and as you may know, like telling a story in a video is way easier than with an image, right? Like I encourage you to see the videos that we have produced with this, and we also have videos with this one, but the storytelling is completely different. And what I just tried to explain you with a lot of words about this ad in a video, it's completely straightforward, and then it's way easier, right? You see the BlaBlaCar seats moving, creating the conversation. You see this person hugging the other. The emotional kind of level, it's way stronger. SEO-wise, it's also positive to use videos. A lot of people think that images are more powerful, but nowadays Google also loves videos. There's a whole tab dedicated to video search that you can use to also make your brand relevant. Videos are mobile. It's a star format on mobile devices. People watch videos all the time on mobile. So if you want to go for app downloads, go for specific lead generation on mobile, definitely use videos. The virality on video is way stronger. I've seen a very strong engagement with videos. We just published one with GoFundMe about all the Corona campaigns that we have had in Italy and Spain, and we wanted to thank the population. We have had more than 3 million views. The cost of production was like under 1,000 euros. And we didn't boost it that much, but it was like the right context, the right time, the right audience, and the virality goes very strong on video. And then you can use it cross-channel. So my favorite strategy when it comes to video, it's producing like 1 minute, 1 minute and a half masterpiece that then you can cut and slice and reformat and repurpose for the different channels. So you have maybe the masterpiece on YouTube or the masterpiece on Instagram TV, and then for doing short advertisements that can go into every placement on social media, you can do the 15 seconds ones that go into stories, that go into Facebook, that go into a lot of placements that get offered by social media platforms. Then it comes the action plan. What type of platforms do I have to put my money behind? What type of platforms are more relevant for me? What are the ones that like will give me more return? These are numbers directly from Facebook. You can see that like it's very hard to get a good idea of like, do I have my audience on Facebook? But it's also true that like most of the world is there, and you can always target a bit more specifically, right? You just need to take into account how big this percentage is for your audience on Facebook before publishing it. And you can always run those tests on Facebook, try to create a campaign and see what's the potential reach and how much money you need to reach that audience. And then you can know more or less if it's the right platform or not, right? What we see on Facebook, though, is that in the last years, there has been a very big change. We saw a drop around 2017 when Facebook decided to change the algorithm, and were punishing kind of those brands and those advertisers that didn't put money behind their post. So the organic post reach has been dropping dramatically in the last years. Here, I wanted to like go back to the video a little bit, because when you see, this is from HotSuite, We Are Social. It's a report that you can check by country. You can check also globally what are the formats and what are the type of posts that people engage the most. We see that video has the highest engagement. You can Google it, like it's super useful. You will find a lot of charts and a lot of things that might be useful for you. Then we see that like the pictures also have a lot of engagement. But then when it comes to link post, when it comes to status post, and when it comes to other type of post, it's way lower. So every time that you publish with a video and a picture, you can expect a higher engagement. Then we see also where do we go with these videos, right? Like, I'm producing a video. Should I put the video on Twitter? Should I put that video on LinkedIn? On LinkedIn, I must say that the engagement with brand videos is very, very low. A lot of B2B platforms, of course, go to LinkedIn to advertise, because it's where we have most of our potential customers, right? And despite the engagement is very low, I would still try to only use LinkedIn as if you want to advertise through LinkedIn ads as a platform to create brand awareness. If you want to do conversion, better go into the inbox of the people, create like a landing page where they can register, create a good like inbound program where you can treat those leads and make them convert to whatever the goal you have. But we see that like the engagement on other platforms when it comes to video, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, it's way higher. Yeah, TikTok is not here. I actually have it in another slide. But yeah, TikTok is another one that it's new. It's true that the way you do ads on TikTok is not that sophisticated yet, let's say. So I'm a bit, I'm a bit doubtful when it comes to launching something on TikTok and expecting a certain return. It's worth trying, especially if you think that your audience is there. And the engagement of videos, it's of course it's the only format that they have, right? So the engagement of videos is very high. But just take into account the audience before moving forward to TikTok. Then this is an example of a post that I used to have when Facebook decided to drop the reach on non-paid posts. We did see the organic reach also falling. So if you want to make the most out of Facebook, I would recommend 5 things. First, I don't know if you know, but there are like some ads that are called reach and frequency ads. Those are very, very good for branding. The CPMs are extremely low, and they will get you very far with the amount of people that you can reach for a very low CPM, cost per million people. Then the lookalikes. If you already have some data in your platform, if you already have a decent amount of users, of visitors, and you want to get to people that are similar to them because you know that that's the audience that actually converts, there are these ads called lookalikes ads that like you can just upload your audience into Facebook, and they will try to find similar audience to the ads that you have. And then the third one is format testing, right? Like test as many formats as you can. I'm suggesting video a lot, but like produce different types of videos, produce different types of contents, different types of storytellings per audience with different value propositions, and see what works the best for you. Then make your pages animated and dynamic, right? Like don't keep posting things that like people might not find relevant, but make it animated, maybe some contests from time to time, So you encourage people to share, and then they get like something free or a discount or something that like will take your brand to a broader audience. And then promotions and offers. It's true that I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to doing a lot of promotions, because it a lot of times brings people that are low lifetime value. So they come just because of the promotion, but not because they really appreciate the service or the product that you have. So better to actually find a way that like you do these promotions, but only to like really a high intent and high quality audience. We have the same snapshot for Instagram. We do see that the amount of population is a bit more urban, that the age is a little bit younger than Facebook, that the income is also a bit lower than Facebook, and also the educational level is a bit lower. So yeah, it's another type of audience. What we have seen on Instagram that is very attractive is the daily active users of the Instagram stories, right? That has been a very, very successful business case, right? When Facebook wanted to buy Snapchat said no, but then they were like, okay, we're going to build our own thing. And they built Instagram stories, and it actually has surpassed Snapchat when it comes to daily active users. So that's a format, that's a channel, that's a placement that we want to be, right? We see it growing, and we want to be top of mind in that channel. Some tips for Instagram. It's also true that the organic reach has decreased. So take into account a paid plan for Instagram. Take into account that you will need to boost some of the posts. Define your themes, define your tones, and avoid using hashtags in a very high frequency. People are tired of seeing all these hashtags. Make sure that you create a community that like appreciates the product, the service, the content that you're creating, without having it to push too much. Make it relevant, and try to get to them in a way that is a bit more natural. Take care of your followers, create conversations. It's important to know that once you launch a social media platform, it's a commitment. You cannot just like launch 5 posts, 10 posts, and then leave it like that. You need to take care of it. You need good community management. You need to like engage with them and make sure that they don't feel that they are in a ghost page without any return, right? And then define your goals clearly: engagement, traffic, leads, purchase, every type of the first slide on demographics. Yeah, sure. This is the first slide. So make sure that the campaign that you're launching has very specific goals, so you can actually measure it in the right way before. Something, if you're an e-commerce platform, you can even use it for other type of platforms that has been working very well, is the Instagram shopping. You need to go through a process to get this added to your website. But even if you're a restaurant, like Instagram has made it very, very easy for you to promote in a very specific way. So for Instagram shopping, what you're doing is to avoid a lot of steps when it comes to the purchase funnel. People can directly purchase inside Instagram, and you should definitely take that into account if you have an e-commerce platform. There are like different formats that you can use. You can use the typical shopping feed post, which is like an Instagram feed, and you just tag your products there. You can use a carousel post, of course, that's quite known. It's just like another exploration of a feed post. You can use Instagram stories with tagged products. And something that is quite innovative, and people's attentions really go into it once they see it, it's the augmented reality filters. So even like companies like MAC and other, especially beauty brands, are using it. It's this filter that you use for your Instagram stories, and you can actually try on the different colors of lipstick or a t-shirt, or you can actually have something that is a bit more playful as a format. And I definitely encourage being up to date with these formats, because you will definitely stand out the minute that you're using something like this. It's quite impressive, right? And you will definitely get to know who's behind it, and you will create a lot of top of mind. Some tips when it comes to Instagram shopping. So make sure your shopping posts are in line with your overall Instagram aesthetic. Don't make it like too directly product focus, make sure that it still works with everything. Maybe use like a good photo shoot before you start this strategy, so you can have a good lookbook that you can use on carousel posts, for instance. I had a lot of problems when it comes to linking the shopping products in the post, to make sure and double check those posts before they go live. Then try to combine a little bit those like product posts with other type of like more relevant content posts. Don't make the whole Instagram profile with posts that are like that have like product tag, because it makes it like kind of like an e-commerce platform instead of like a relevant content Instagram page. Then use these descriptive hashtags so your products can be searchable and followable. I think I made that one up, but I guess you understand what I mean. Then try to use user-generated content. Try to make people post about your products when they buy them, so you can use that content for yourself as well. And then spread out the shoppable posts through your grid. Even if you are not posting very frequently, don't make it like the three posts that you post this week shoppable posts, because it's also overloading. And then use Instagram story videos to show your product in action. There's nothing better than seeing something on someone. If it's a dress, if it's like jeans, if it's makeup, you can definitely have a better feeling of how that's going to look on you if you have a video with it. Then one of the last points that I wanted to touch base on, because we have 5 minutes, is the influencers marketing. For me, influencers in the last years, I think now it's getting a bit better, because it was so obvious and so outrageous to see influencers telling so much stuff, and not even telling, right? Now they have to, but before they didn't. That they became kind of this Formula One pilots with a lot of logos on their t-shirts, kind of on their jackets. It was the same with influencers. As I said, it's getting better in this sense, so we can trust a little bit more the influencers that advertise on brands. But for me, I also like to create a strategy behind it. A lot of people use it as a one-off action, and that will never work. You cannot expect a lot of return from a single influencer action. You have to create a strategy behind. You need to integrate it into the marketing plan, right? You need to define a realistic goal for that action inside the overall plan. Is it awareness? Is it leads? What's the user journey when people see something on your on an influencer page, right? Are you telling the influencer to redirect that people to your social media page? Maybe that's more effective than, because you cannot use links, but you can tag a page, and you need to have that page ready to follow the user journey to the conversion that you want them to have, right? So you need to think like 5 steps forward instead of just like thinking about like, oh yeah, I'm going to do one post with that influencer and I'm going to have a lot of awareness. It doesn't work that way. It has never worked. And I hear a lot of people always complaining about the influencer strategy, and I get it. But you need to be just strategic about it. Then I will encourage to use influencers as an additional channel. So you are having your brand awareness kind of campaign, right? You have it running. You have a 15 seconds videos in all the social media platforms. You have your own social media profile, completely detailed and with a lot of information, very worked on, with like a good brand and tone and messaging and very nice images that people care about. Then you have also your landing page, right? Like by audience with the right value propositions. And on top of that, you want to use an influencer to encourage and to boost a little bit more this top of mind, because you're having a marketing boost in that specific moment, right? Usually, like when you work on FMCG, for instance, like big advertisement companies where you have like 20 million, 30 million money, you usually plan your marketing in waves, right? So 2-3 weeks, you boost everything and then you stop, analyze the results, and then you do it again in 2-3 months. That's how it usually works in FMCG, for instance. So the same applies for social media and for any marketing strategy. You can use these influencers as part of that wave of marketing that you really want to push, and you really want to create brand awareness in that seasonality moment that maybe your company, your product, your service is more relevant, right? At Blablacar, for instance, we had like a seasonal moment, super clear. It was before the holidays, when everybody was looking for trips and couldn't find an affordable bus, an affordable train, an affordable flight. If it was a short distance flight, they were coming to us. So we knew exactly what was the moment where we had to actually advertise and do that wave of advertisement super strongly to make sure that people were going to be already thinking about our service. So in those waves, we were using influencers sometimes, and we were using a lot of press. It was the right moment to actually advertise and put all our marketing money behind. Then also choose the right influencers, right? Choose the ones that have the right tone, the right audience, that are really going to make your product look good, that like you would like them to be associated with your brand. And then think about YouTube as well sometimes, and YouTube influencers, because people search for YouTube videos all the time, and it's a bit more lasting than Instagram videos or Instagram posts where you just go through your feed and you don't see them again. On YouTube, they can have a longer kind of effect. Still questionable, but like, yeah, you can consider it just as an idea. I like to put it there. I wanted to give a couple of examples of influencers went wrong. So at GoFundMe, we have these fundraising campaigns, and we had these two campaigns that we didn't control. People started campaigns, and we had to allow them in our platform because they weren't against our terms and services. So we had this Build the Trump Wall campaign that we didn't want, and it started, and we let it go. And also one that was for Kanye West, because he was saying that he was broken, and some people started donating money to take him out of poverty. So what we tried to do is, like, even though we didn't want these influencers, try to like shape the story around it. For instance, about the wall, we didn't allow any press associated with GoFundMe. And with the Kanye one, we encouraged the campaign organizer to donate that money to charity. Then we had some other good examples, like Michelle Obama. That's one that we proactively looked for, and we actually pushed for, and we wanted associated with our brand. So those are like long-term kind of strategies that like we had to work on, but at the end we managed to get associated. And then just the last step is the analysis and optimization, right? So once you have your audience, you have your messages, you have your formats, you know your goals, you know where you're going to launch your ads, make sure that you can analyze and optimize in an efficient way. So identify your KPIs, your goals, get to know your basics, your channels, schedule, days, launch with a failure mindset, audit your social media audience constantly. Maybe the audience that you want to target is not the one that has the highest engagement. So make sure you reevaluate and reconsider your initial assumptions. Then choose your schedule in a smart and consistent way. Test your messaging and test before investing too much. You can always only invest 50 euros or 100 euros to see how it works, and then you can boost it even further. Test your videos as well. Growth testing versus totals testing. This is something that a lot of people use. It's like, we have grown at 30, 40, 50%, but at the same time, it's 30% from like 5 to 8 leads, for instance. So make sure that you also understand the totals. Then also test your influencers, and most importantly, get your conclusions. Make sure that you have conclusions for everything you're testing. I have a couple of slides about how to measure. You can even take a screenshot of this, how to measure your social media based on the buyer's journey and on the objective, and what type of social activity you need to do per buyer's journey phase. So as you can see, you need to set up the metrics based on the buyer's journey and on the social activity that you are trying to get, with the right social KPIs and with the right business impacts, right? Social KPIs will be, for instance, impression, reach, cost per impression. But then you have share of voice, top of mind awareness as the business impact. That's what the CEO probably cares about. You as CMO, as like marketing strategist, care about these ones potentially, but then you need to communicate all of these metrics into something that you can sell to the company. And I have a couple more slides just on the schedule. The most important part, though, when it comes to scheduling your post and knowing which day is the highest engagement day, it's to use your own data. So after trying, after testing, after launching ads with this failure mindset, you can know what's the day that has the highest engagement, what's the time of the day, and keep testing those days and those time frames, so you know exactly when to schedule your posts. And finally, keep testing your audience, right? Like keep testing the topics that you want them to engage with. Keep in mind what they love, what don't they love, and try to appeal to their emotions, as I said before. And yeah, that's it. I'm 2 minutes late. Sorry, probably most of you have some meetings, but I hope it was useful. And I hope to see you again at Malt Academy with me or with another coach. Let me know feedback, questions. I'm happy to reply to everything. You can also add me on LinkedIn and we can talk about any other topic.